Have you ever looked at a great leader and wondered, what's their secret? What really separates them from everyone else? Well, it's usually not about just luck or charisma. It almost always comes down to a solid, repeatable foundation. And today, we're going to unpack the 4 fundamental pillars of management that every single leader needs to master.
I mean, think about it. How does a company like Apple, starting in a garage, become a global powerhouse? How does that transformation from a simple idea on a workbench to a product in the hands of billions of people actually happen? Well, I can tell you it's not some kind of magic trick. It's a very deliberate, structured process.
And the secret? Well, it's right there. It's management. This is the art and the science of turning a vision into something real, something you can touch. It's the discipline that builds successful, long-lasting organizations, literally from the ground up.
So how do we actually navigate that incredible journey from idea to enterprise? Well, you need a roadmap. And the one we're looking at is built on 4 essential pillars. Think of these as the guideposts that will take us every step of the way, making sure we don't just start strong, but we actually get to where we're going.
You wouldn't start a cross-country road trip without a map, right? Of course not. Every great journey starts with a clear destination and a route to get there. And that's exactly why our first pillar is all about planning. This is where you create the detailed blueprint for success before you even take that first step.
So at its core, planning is really just about answering some basic questions. What are we trying to do? How are we going to get it done? When does it need to happen? And who's responsible for what? It's exactly like building a house. You would never, ever start pouring the foundation without a detailed blueprint.
But, planning is way more than just a to-do list, isn't it? It's a systematic process. You start with a crystal clear goal, you look at all the different ways you could get there, you weigh the pros and cons of each one, and then you pick the best path forward. It's all about making smart, informed choices, not just winging it.
Now, planning actually works on a couple of different levels. Let's stick with that military analogy for a second. The strategic plan, that's the general's overall campaign, the big picture vision for how to win the entire war. The tactical plans, those are the specific, on-the-ground moves your teams make to win each individual battle. You absolutely need both.
Okay, so you've got a brilliant plan. That's fantastic, but a plan is pretty useless without action. And that's where our second pillar comes crashing in, decision-making. This is the moment of truth. This is where the roadmap hits the road, and you actually have to choose a path and go for it.
Just stop and think about how many decisions you make every single day. In business, decision-making is the absolute lifeblood of the whole operation. Every new product, every marketing campaign, every single hire, it's all the result of someone making a conscious choice.
Hey, does this process look a little familiar? It should. It's a lot like our planning framework, and that's not a coincidence. See, making a good decision takes that same level of careful analysis. The goal isn't just to make any choice. The goal is to make the right choice, the one that's actually going to move you forward.
I'm sure you've experienced this. Some decisions are practically automatic, right? Like reordering office supplies or, hitting the snooze button for the 3rd time. We call those programmed decisions. But then there are those big, complex, keep-you-up-at-night decisions. Those are non-programmed, and they're the ones that really show you what a leader is made of.
All right, so you've made a great decision. Awesome. But a decision is still just a starting point. To actually make it happen, you need the right people, the right tools, and the right systems in place. And that brings us to our 3rd pillar, organizing.
Think of organizing like building the engine of your company. It's all about figuring out who does what, who reports to whom, and how all these different moving parts are going to fit together to create one powerful, well-oiled machine that can actually execute on your decisions.
A well-organized company is a beautiful thing. Everybody knows their role, information flows where it needs to go, and things just get done efficiently. It's the difference between a symphony orchestra playing in perfect harmony and, just a bunch of noise and chaos. So here's the bottom line. Good organizing makes you incredibly efficient. Think about a pit crew at a NASCAR race. Every single person has one specific job, and they all work together in perfect sync to get that car back on the track in just a few seconds. That is the power of great organization.
So we've talked about getting your people and your resources organized. Now let's look at the skeleton that holds everything together. This final pillar is the formal organizational structure itself.
Let's look at a couple of real-world examples to make this clear. A company like, say, Google often uses a functional structure. You've got your engineering department, your marketing department, your sales department. But a huge company like General Electric,
They use a divisional structure with separate, self-contained divisions for aviation, healthcare, and energy.
We've all had a boss, right? Well, that's authority in action. It's the formal power a manager has to give directions, make decisions, and, expect people to follow through. It always flows from the top down, the chain of command.
But here's the other side of that coin, responsibility. I'll never forget my first job, when my boss gave me this huge project. I was terrified of messing it up because I knew I was responsible for the outcome. That obligation, that responsibility, it always flows upward, back to the person who gave you the task.
As a manager, you just can't do everything yourself. It's impossible. That's why delegation is so critical. But it's not just about dumping work on people. It's about empowering them. For it to actually work, you have to give them the task, the power to do it, and make them accountable for the results.
And this is a really important one to let sink in. When you delegate a task, you are entrusting someone with a piece of your responsibility. But at the end of the day, the buck still stops with you. The ultimate accountability, that can never be passed on. It's always yours.
So we've walked through these 4 pillars of management, but here's the real kicker. They aren't separate things you just check off a list. They're all deeply connected, and they form this powerful, continuous cycle that drives an organization forward.
It's this never-ending loop. You plan, then you decide, you organize, you build the structure, and the results of that structure feed right back into your next plan. With every single cycle, the organization gets smarter, it gets faster, it gets better. That's how the great companies stay great.
So, there you have it. That's the blueprint for building a successful organization. But remember, a blueprint is just a guide. The real magic, the secret sauce, that happens when you bring it to life with a talented, motivated, and inspired team of people. So the challenge is this: go out there and build something amazing.